So is there a legal case here for Leyla Pirnie? Well, let's talk about it. It's time for Night Court. Tonight's legal eagles are criminal defense attorneys and former prosecutors David Bruno and Bob Bianchi. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being in today.
Pleasure, Shannon.
Okay, so you got the gist of the story here. She talks about being gone for the weekend, and while she was gone, these roommates went through her room. She says essentially ransacking the place, going through every drawer, the closets, everything else. They found guns. They were worried about it. She says this: when I asked them why they were in my room to begin with, they each came up with completely contradicting stories, none of which made any sense. But one comment struck me in particular. We saw that you had a MAGA hat, and come on, you're from Alabama. So we just kind of assumed that you had something. David.
All right, well, first, this is the ability of a landlord to prevent guns from being in a home is very different than a town or a state prohibiting it.
The government.
Right. This is a private citizen, so he does have the right, believe it or not. There's no federal statute, there's no case law that prohibits it. And it really comes down to the states. Does the state prohibit it? Does it allow it? Massachusetts really is silent, so it allows it. He can say to the tenants, no guns. I think what's a problem for the landlord here is going to be what's in the lease. Because if he didn't put her on notice, then he may have a problem on that point. But if he did, or if the lease expires, he has the right to say no guns in my house.
Okay, George Curry, Esquire, like all three of us, on FindLaw.com says this: while the Second Amendment does protect the rights of gun owners, it only protects those rights from governmental intrusion, just like the First Amendment and free speech. This means that unless your landlord is a governmental entity, like a city or a state or an agency, or receives state or federal funding for rental assistance on your property, the Second Amendment is unlikely to apply. That sounds like David's argument, Bob.
Exactly. Well, I don't agree with David's argument, and here's the reason. She has a right under the Second Amendment to possess the weapons. It is true it's not governmental action. This is a contract case. It is a lease. She has a valid lease. The lease does not prohibit these weapons. The landlord called the police. The police came and said they're lawfully in her possession. They are safe and secure. There is nothing we can do. And who committed a crime here are these people who go ransacking her room and trespass and invade her privacy. Hey, listen, if you don't like it, when the lease is over, get out. But the landlord made a big mistake here, Dave. The landlord basically said, look, there's a disagreement between you two. So he decided, in his wisdom of non-Solomon, if you will, to say, you, the gun owner, who's rightfully there, who did nothing wrong, who was trespassed upon, your privacy was invaded, you should be the one that goes, and that's a problem for the landlord.
Well, it sounds like there were several other roommates and then her. And so they're saying all the rest of us are upset. We want you to go. But to the point you talked about, the police officer who came over, they asked him to come. She welcomed him, the gun owner, and said, yes. Yep. He came over and said, everything is legal, everything's in order, she's maintaining them properly, so that's not the issue.
Sure. I mean, what the landlord has done is he has said it's easier to get rid of one than five. Little did he know that we'd be talking about this case on Fox News right now.
It's true.
And now he's got a little problem, because if he starts litigation, he can't just remove her immediately. This is going to be an eviction proceeding. And then he doesn't know how it's going to come out. Then the five can leave, and now he could be in problems with both, right? So the landlord's got problems, but the lease is an issue. But if it's not in the lease, he does have a legal right to prohibit it under the federal and state law.
Yeah, but that's not the facts of this case. And the fact of the matter is, if he kicks her out, she's got a legal action against the roommates and him. And if those other ones leave, then she's going to sue them for the excess rent. And I'd bring the landlord in to say, you caused this to happen.
This is what part of the email from the roommates, and they did copy her on it because they said, we want to be transparent about this whole thing. But they sent this to the guy, the management or landlord guy. They said this: her having guns there, legally or not, this makes all the rest of us very uncomfortable and feeling unsafe. Their presence, meaning the guns, causes anxiety and deprives us of the quiet enjoyment of the promises to which we are entitled.
You know, we were talking about this offset, and it's the last word that is the word that's most important: entitled. You're entitled to nothing. You're entitled to make sure that somebody is not violating the law. I get that. But because your feelings are hurt or your kitty boo boo-boo over something doesn't mean you have the legal recourse to tell somebody who is following her constitutional rights and in lawful possession of a weapon, grow up. There's a problem with too much entitlement. You need to be able to deal with this situation, and after the lease is over, if you don't like it, get out, or get out ahead of time and pay the roommates the cost of the lease that you're leaving early.
All right, quick final word, David.
Those girls, they did trespass too. When they went into her room, I mean,
we all seem to think that's a problem.
Right, it is. So if anyone has recourse, I think it's the one that says I have the right to have my gun.
David and Bob, great to see both of you. You at home are our jury, so tweet us and let us know what you think at Fox News Night or at Shannon Bream, or let the guys know. We tweeted them out too. All right, stick around.